So, good day, warm greetings, and here we are. As some of you know that I consider the expression, here we are, to be a profound statement. That here, in this place, this time, definitively so. And the task of mindfulness is as simple as clearly knowing, fully knowing that we are here, without any distraction, without any question, without any doubt. And then to discover that it's actually quite beneficial to be rooted and connected to here. I like this expression here, H-E-R-E, so well that sometimes when my mind is distracted and lots of thoughts, I sit down to meditate, I'll use that as a little statement that I say to myself. I'll just say here, in a kind way, supportive way, and not a command like maybe you would to a dog. Just here. It's a recognition that I'm here. And in that recognition, then, in that saying that word, then I'm curious, what is here? And it's more like I say the word here, and then I open my attention up to notice what is here without any preference or idea of what's supposed to reveal itself. And if my mind is really busy, and that's the predominant thing going on, then I become aware of here. Here, there's a mind that's busy, that's thinking a lot. And I make it that simple. And then I'll say it again, here. And here is grounding. And it's also opening, okay, let's see what is here. And I'll do that repeatedly, maybe if my mind is busy, maybe for 5 minutes at the beginning of a sitting. And this kind of grounding here and simply recognizing what is here without it needing to be different. Something begins to settle. I start to not invest so much energy or in the preoccupations I have, and there's almost like there's a room then for things to settle or to allow. And this idea of giving room to experience, to let it settle here, then eventually after about 5 minutes or so, I'll find myself, now I'm here, and I could stop saying the word here. So this idea of being rooted here, with attention open and aware, and then once we're here, to be here with the breathing. Not so much that we're directing our attention to the breathing at the exclusion of everything else, but more like breathing is at the center of the universe. Our personal universe is the center of our being. It's the source from which, almost like the source from which there radiates awareness. The awareness that's maybe sensory, physical sensations. And so to really kind of rest here in these sensations of breathing, and then let that kind of feel like it's the center from where everything else radiates and happens. And so it's less a directing to the breath as maybe an awakening to breathing or an emergence from breathing. Allow awareness to emerge from here in this breathing. So to take a meditation posture in which you can establish your ability to be here. Establish yourself here. And so there is some, we don't want to be too casual in sitting down to meditate. It's helpful if in a nice, easy way, but not casual way, that there's a definitiveness to taking your spot, to taking your place in this place, here, for the meditation. And that you're clear the very spot that you're meditating in. You feel the contact of your body against this spot. Wherever your body, wherever the pull of gravity no longer pulls the body down further, but where it stops against some probably relatively hard surface. Your seat, your cushion, the floor, your bed. Here, definitively. And then in order to support this definitive sense of yes, here I am, there's a way in which to gently, calmly, but definitively close your eyes, as if closing your eyes is another step towards this definitiveness, this clarity. Yes, I am here. I'm no longer in yesterday, no longer in the plans of later, no longer in my fantasies, other places and other times. I'm here. And this definitiveness of being here can continue with these long, slow, deep breaths. It might be just 3, or it might be more, that you take in order to begin the meditation. And you might even say the word here to yourself as you exhale. And then to let your breathing return to normal. And then as you exhale, see if you can relax parts of your body. Connect to this part of the body as you inhale, and relax it as you exhale. Occasionally some people find the word melting, to melt, to be helpful as a concept for this relaxing. Relaxing or melting the tensions of your face. As if your muscles can melt away, fall away from the skull. Even if you feel some tension in your face, activation, lifetime of activation, always smiling or squinting or tensing. If you can't relax it, it's okay. There is a kind of relaxation that happens when you just hold it gently, the tensions of the body. Allow it to be there and allow it to be known. On the exhale, relaxing the shoulders, adjusting the hands a little bit where they are so that the shoulders have more room to relax. In the inhale, feeling the center of the chest, and the exhale, softening, relaxing. the inhale, feeling your belly. And then relaxing on the exhale, softening, melting. And then seeing where is it easiest or most compelling for you to experience the body breathing. For some people it's the movements of the belly. Some people it's the movements of or the diaphragm. Some people it's the movements of the chest. Some people it's the sensations of the air going in and out through the nostrils. And some people it's all of these, kind of as a big sweep, wave of breathing through the body. Whatever it is for you, let that be the place that you're here in this breathing, in this body breathing. And if it's helpful, you might very gently say the word here. As a pointer, as a reminder to be here in the middle of your breathing, to be rooted, as if it's the basis, the center of here and now. Saying the word here, and letting that word also be a reminder to relax the thinking mind, to quiet the mind so you can better feel the experience of breathing. Like you would quiet your mind to hear a faint sound in the distance. As you say here, the mind becomes quieter, so it's more sensitive to breathing. It's okay for these few moments to let go of any way you're bracing yourself with life, or resisting, or holding on to something, afraid of something. It's okay to trust for these few minutes, breathing, letting all things else melt away, rooted here with your breathing. Here with the breathing. Here with the exhale, all the way to the end of the exhale. And if there is a slight pause at the end of the exhale, let that be a pause in any thinking that's crept in. So there's a quiet receptivity to the beginning of the inhale. And if you're able to stay somewhat here with your breathing, see if you can let go of any idea that how you're meditating is not good enough. Instead, meditate without any idea of not good enough, not quite enough, not quite up to what it's supposed to be. It's good enough, your practice. And that feeling of good enough maybe is just the support you need to stay more fully with your breathing, to trust your breathing, riding the rhythms, the waves of breathing in and breathing out. And then as we come to the end of this sitting, imagine sitting quietly 10, 15 feet from you, not looking at you, but sitting, maybe reading, is a person that you care about, someone you love, appreciate a lot. And imagine that you open your eyes and you gaze upon this person sitting there quietly. But you continue to breathe mindfully. You don't get swept up into the thoughts and ideas. Nothing needs to happen. You don't need to say anything. And maybe in this place in which you're aware of your breathing now, you might feel the tenderness, the warmth, the goodwill, the love you feel for this person. And you might notice that perhaps not always, but you might notice that your capacity to rest and feel your goodwill, your appreciation, your love, in this simple way, without needing to do anything or say anything, is quite precious. You might feel maybe it can evoke a sense of well-wishing for this person, wishing them well, wishing them happiness and well-being and peace. And now imagine somehow sitting in front of you are all beings everywhere. And maybe again, there's some way in which the end of the meditation session you can tap into goodwill and care and appreciation of others, all beings. And consider how that you're well-wishing for them. May all beings be happy. May all beings be safe and free. And in this perhaps a lot relaxed way of just sitting here, perhaps you can consider how you can actually be inspired from how you feel in meditation, how you benefit from meditation, to translate that into specific actions of goodwill, of friendliness, of support and benefit for others. And may it be that on this day, that this community of ours sitting and meditating together, each of us, maybe in a very small way, spread outwards to make this a better world. Here, the world in which we inhabit, may we contribute to a better world today. So today I'd like to give the third introductory talk on this topic of mindfulness of breathing. And then tomorrow we'll start with the 16 steps that the Buddha taught for this practice. And so there is one discourse of particular teachings of the Buddha where he lays out this teaching of the 16 steps. And the particular discourse can be divided into 3 parts. And one of the things that characterizes these parts is the way in which they are unifying things. It doesn't say this explicitly, so maybe this is my interpretation, but there's a way in which it's emphasizing the bringing together and harmony of different elements of practice. All the different practices that the Buddha taught, all the different mind states that happen in meditation, the different developments of meditation, how it all fits together in a harmonious whole. And also the Buddhist community at his time, how they come together in a harmonious way, in a unified way. And the discourse begins with a beautiful image of a full moon night in the fall, maybe in around September, in ancient India, in the woods. And there's a wonderful way in which the full moon in the woods, if it's not too dense, the canopy, can really light up a certain kind of beautiful, clear, peaceful, calm light that lights up, and you can see, pretty well at night. And this big full moon is so much different than the sun, which you can't really look at the sun without injuring yourself. The moon, which represents in Buddhism the full moon, the awakened mind, is safe to look at. It's cool, it's peaceful, it's brings a light. We can see clearly in the dark. And so in this full moon night in the woods, there is a large gathering of the Buddha's disciples. And all the 10 senior disciples of the Buddha are all together there, and they're there for 3 months for what's called the Rains Retreat. And each of them is there together with a group of new monks who they're training. And so in one of the senior disciples of the Buddha has 10 new monks, one has 20, another 30, one 40, all in multiples of 10. There's 10 disciples, multiple of 10 disciples that different ones of them have. So it's kind of well organized, this idea of it being kind of organized and harmonious and orderly is kind of implied in this. And each of the senior disciples is teaching for these 3 months, the younger disciples, teaching them meditation, the practice. And the Buddha gathers them together on this full moon night, and he says to them all, I'm really pleased with all of you, your practice. I'm delighted in your practice, and you've developed and matured wonderfully in this practice. However, you can mature more. There's further to be done. So rather than, I was going to leave now at the end of this Rains Retreat, but I'm going to stay here 1 more month, and why don't you stay 1 more month and keep practicing because you're doing so well. So they do, and so here they're living together harmoniously in the woods, and the senior disciples are living together and doing the same thing, supporting, and the Buddha's pleased. It's this image of unity and harmony of practice and dedication and practice, and the full moon can almost stand for the maturity of these practitioners, that their hearts are becoming full and mature, awakened. And so they practice for another month, and then the Buddha gathers them together again, and he says, I'm really pleased by all of you, and you've really matured further. And then he says, and here in this community, there's no, everyone is well practiced, everyone is well settled, everyone is ethical. There's no one who's kind of slacking off, and I'm really happy with how it's going. So he's really kind of get the sense of the whole community is maturing harmoniously and involved in the same thing, developing in the same way on the path of practice. And then he says that yes, and here among you all, there are those of you who are fully awakened, and those of you who are well on the way to full awakening, at different stages of awakening. And there are those of you who are practicing the 4 foundations of mindfulness, who are practicing 7 factors of awakening, who are practicing the Eightfold Path, who are practicing developing the 5 faculties and the 5 powers and the 4 bases of success. And he goes through all these different practices that they're doing, and including loving kindness, compassion, appreciative joy, and equanimity. And so they're all these different practices and developments that go on in early Buddhism. They're all represented in that community. They all have a place. They're all important and valuable. So that's the setup for the teachings on breathing. And then the Buddha says, I don't think he used the word but he says, but mindfulness of breathing, when practiced and cultivated frequently, leads to great benefit, to great advantage. And when you practice mindfulness of breathing, it cultivates the 4 foundations of mindfulness. And as you cultivate the 4 foundations of mindfulness with breath meditation, it develops the 7 factors of awakening. As the 7 factors of awakening develop, it develops the 7 factors of awakening lead to initial awakening, and that initial awakening allows those 7 factors to develop further that leads to final awakening. So here again, there's a way in which he's bringing together all these different parts of the path of practice and explaining how they fit together and support each other. The mindfulness of breathing is not a separate practice from the 4 foundations of mindfulness. It's not a separate practice in cultivating the 7 factors of awakening. So he's really kind of built up this whole momentum in his teaching, this prelude, the prologue to this discourse, and mindfulness of breathing is so valuable. And then he is going to start giving the instructions. And before talking about the first step, he gives the preliminary instructions for doing breath meditation. He says, and maybe it's worth reading it. So he says, and how is mindfulness of breathing developed and cultivated so it is of great fruit and great benefit? Here, a practitioner, gone to the forest, or to the root of a tree, or to an empty hut, sits down, having folded their legs crosswise, set their body erect, and establish mindfulness to the forefront. Even mindful, ever mindful, one breathes in, ever mindful, one breathes out. So there's a definitiveness to being here, that's sitting down to meditate, and Buddha is very particular, specific about the location. I don't think it's because it's those particular locations where you have to go meditate, but rather this idea of sitting in a definitive place, like I'm here, this is the place where I'm sitting, I'm rooted, I'm going to be. So in the forest, at the root of a tree, an empty hut, in a quiet room in your house, wherever but there's a kind of definitiveness to this is the spot. And then having folded one's legs crosswise, this is this is a cross-legged seated posture. There are other postures as well. Elsewhere he talks about 4 dignified postures. There is, I don't know if he said dignified, but this is how it's come down through the ages. 4 dignified postures. That posture of sitting upright, lying down, standing, and walking. All are suitable meditation postures. So again, different ways of sitting. But again, this definitiveness of really taking your place, sitting up. And then he says, with one's body erect. And if, of course, if you're laying down, body's not erect. But maybe there's erect also means a kind of internal, I like to say, an internal uprightness or internal integrity, internal kind of confidence. Yes, here I'm going to practice. And so there's time and effort and emphasis here on gathering oneself together. For me, symbolically, folding your legs together is a gathering together, coming here, being established here. And I used to be able to sit full lotus and really cross-legged. And there is a kind of definitiveness and a gathering together that of the physical energies that seems to happen with this posture that really helps you to kind of really definitively be here. And then with that, ever mindful, one breathes in, ever mindful, one breathes out. And so here, ever mindful. And this is a fascinating idea that one establishes mindfulness. It says, establish mindfulness to the forefront, ever mindful, one breathes in and breathes out. And it's interesting, this term establishes mindfulness, as opposed to, it doesn't say, now you do the mindfulness, now you apply the mindfulness, now you are busy being mindful. Rather, establishing mindfulness has a very different connotation than doing mindfulness. Is you are I like to think of this as awareness. You don't do awareness, but you can establish yourself in awareness. And I'll give you an analogy, and then we'll stop. Imagine that you're a naturalist, and you're told there's an amazing bird somewhere in the natural world, maybe in the woods, the wilds. And but the bird is very shy, and so if you want to see this amazing bird, it's important to go in a particular place. There's a clearing in the woods, and stand there very still. You have to be very patient. And the bird can come from any direction. It can come from above, back, side, from below even. It might suddenly appear, but it doesn't. It just comes through very quickly. So almost if you blink, you almost might miss it. And if you're too busy looking for it, then you can't really see it. The very looking for it is making the mind too busy. You have to just stand there and be very still, and all your senses open, establishing awareness, all your senses open, without doing too much application or looking or searching, and just be open to all your senses so you're alert enough so when the bird comes through, you're ready to pick it up, to see it, to understand, to see it there and see it. And if you spend your time in daydreaming and thinking, you won't have all the senses open enough to see the bird. So that's more my analogy for this idea of establishing mindfulness, establishing awareness. And then ever aware, one breathes in, ever aware, one breathes out. And since breathing is so close and intimate with the whole inner experience of awareness, that if awareness is established, then we become aware of breathing. And this is a different feeling or different instructions than now bore into your breathing, like be in the control tower and really apply yourself and focus on the breathing, that kind of way. But yes, it is a strong attention to breathing, but it's through this establishing attention, establishing awareness. And when awareness is established on breathing in and breathing out, then the 16 stages of breathing begin, which we'll talk about tomorrow. So thank you very much for today, and I look forward to tomorrow.